what I'm going to talk about here, just for a few minutes, because we've just finished 2 Corinthians, is the timeline of the rapture. Okay? Just so that people are aware of it, because it's something that we forget very easily, and I'd like people to be aware of it. Let me get my Bible in case we need to have that right handy. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. How long is the peace deal with Israel set to be?
7 years.
7 years. Okay. 7 years. We're going to go to Daniel 9 really quickly. I don't know if we'll get this done in the next 20 minutes, but we're going to try. Daniel 9, and we're going to go to verses 24 through 27. Okay? This is kind of important to understand this, because people question, is the rapture pre or mid or post-trib? We can know. It's so simple, and yet people get all these convoluted ideas in their head about it. So here we go. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city. 70 weeks means a period of 70 years of 7 years, okay, which is 490 years. For your people and your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. I'm whipping through these verses. We could do a 3-hour study on them, but I'm just reading them to you. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, that means until Christ comes, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. 7 plus 62 is 69. That's right, 483 years. Okay, and after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. That means there's a period of 7 years left, okay? Not for himself. That means he's going to die for the people of the world. And the people of the prince who is to come, the prince is speaking of the Antichrist, okay, shall destroy the city. The Romans destroyed the city under Titus and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, and till the end of the war, desolations are determined. Verse 27, here it is. This is the timeline for all of the prophecies that we need to know. Everything else has to fit into this in the New Testament. Then he, meaning the prince, who is, go back to verse 26, and the people of the prince who is to come. The prince who is to come is the Antichrist. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. If you're a Reformed theologian, you will say that he is Jesus. And it's speaking of a 7-year covenant. It doesn't make any sense. It's just very poor theology, but we'll just skip over that. We'll talk about that some other time. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. 1 period of 7 years. But in the middle of the week, which means after 3.5 years, he, the Antichrist, shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. Okay, so we have 7 more years coming. Everybody, that's what this says, correct? Everybody's got that. The Antichrist is going to make a deal with Israel for 7 years, and at the halfway point, at 3.5 years, he's going to stop 3.5 years. He's going to stop the sacrifice and offering. Okay, so that's the timeline. We don't need to worry about anything other than that, because Daniel got this prophecy to show us that there is a timeline that's going to be done. Okay, who is it that confirms this covenant with Israel? We just read it. Who is it? The Antichrist. Okay, and the same person who signs it will break it at the middle of the 7-year period. That's 7 final years of law. That is under the dispensation of the law, actually. It's not under the dispensation of grace, because the church is not here. This is the dispensation of law. You've got 2 different dispensations. This is the dispensation of law. Okay? 7 more years coming there. Why is it the dispensation of law? Because it's promised to the people of Israel under the law. They're going to have a temple. Okay? So, this is all clear. It's all explicit. Can anybody here disagree with that? 7 more years, Antichrist, it's going to be cut off halfway through, and it is the dispensation of law. That's all explicit. We don't need to argue over it, because that's what the Bible says.